Hey there, Nation, and welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander Cheapskate, and welcome to Season 2 of Meat for the Grinder, our series dedicated to Necromunda Dark Uprising Battle Reports. Meat for the Grinder is a Necromunda campaign set in the final days of Hive Arcos, where Chaos, Xenos, and Order clash for control of a collapsing Hive City. And on today's episode, the Lords of the Pit from the Scavvies interrupt a ceremony from the blooded of the Helot Chaos Cults in a ritual scenario to the death. So once again, my little sister, the Shade, is bringing the blooded, her Helot Chaos Cult that is dedicated to Sneech, and Senior Ching, of course, is bringing the Lords of the Pit, the brand new gang of Scavvies, which we actually brought in for this second campaign week as well. This gang's actually been quite busy fighting several battle reports this time around, and this time they're going to see if they can stop the blooded from actually summoning up demons to cause further destruction and chaos in the depths of Hive Arcos. Now, because this battle report will be a bit of a longer video, I do have timestamps in the description box down below, so that way you can click and navigate to the portion of the video that interests you the most. So with that being said, let's go ahead and talk about exactly what my friends are bringing by showing pictures of all their gangs as well as their rosters.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dying times here.
Alright, so the scenario for this one is called the Ritual. Pretty much the idea behind this scenario is that the attacker, which in this case is the Scavvies, will receive 10 fighters that they can actually choose from their list, while for the defenders, which are going to be the Helot Chaos Cults, they get 10 randomly selected fighters to participate in this one. And because Shade is allied with Chaos, she does get a just to automatically become the defender, just because that's how the scenario rules pretty much fit. The defender deploys their fighters anywhere within 12 inches of the center of the battlefield, while the attacker then deploys their fighters in base contact with any edge of the battlefield as well. At the same time, my sister Shade will need to pick one of her fighters to actually be the ritual leader. This person cannot take any actions whatsoever because they're too busy being a conduit for the eldritch energies that are being summoned up from the warp, and so because of that, they will not take any actions. Now, as the demonic energy surges over time, what ends up happening is that in every end phase, she gets, it's called a ritual token. And what you do is at the beginning of each end phase, you take a ritual token and you roll a d6 and you add the totals together. And for every single time that that you do this, of course, the more tokens and the higher the rolls, the more different effects take place in the battlefield. From just being an inconvenience all the way to fighters being incurred with insanity, for example, people suffering penalties in their willpower and cool tests, and so on and so forth, all the way until you get 13 points, in which case the warp vomits, which means that the battlefield automatically ends, and that pretty much ends a victory for the defenders if they manage to do that. So basically the idea is supposed to be the attackers either one, wipe out all the defenders, in which case they win the scenario, or the warp vomits forth and the defenders win. So for experience, every fighter who participates in the battle report earns 1 point of experience, and as 80 fighters are left on the battlefield at the end of the game, they also earn a bonus experience on top of that. And of course, if any demons are actually summoned onto the table because the ritual reaches that point, any fighter that takes out a demonically possessed fighter earns D3 experience points on top of that. As for reputation, the victorious gang earns D3 points reputation, and if either gang bottles out, they lose 1 point reputation. And since we're not in the damnation phase of the scenario, we can go ahead and skip the damnation phase rewards. Alright, so let's talk about battle plans real quick. As you can see, my friends are playing on a Zor Mortalis battlefield that's got a lot of different things going on, especially when it comes to environmental effects. You got to worry about the corpse grinder there, right there located in the center there. We also got a huge pit of oil on the top there as well. At the center here, of course, you can see that my sister Shade has set up her gang with the Dark Ritual with her fighter, their ritual leader. I believe that guy's name is Zakar is his name. He's located right there on that bridge. At the same time, we also got some opening pits spread throughout the battlefield as well. And pretty much for the battle plan on this one is that my sister's going to try to fight defensively from the elevated position to make sure the ritual goes off. Meanwhile, for my friend Senior Chang, his over plan is to actually send his forces forward and swarm forward and try to take out as many enemy fighters as possible. And that pretty much makes the battle plans for this scenario. Alright, so let's talk about the point real quick. So starting off with the Lords of the Pit, this huge monstrosity here on the left-hand side, that character is called the Fisher King. He is a sump beast. He's got ferocious jaws as well as multiple legs as well as scaly hide. He's got the Unhive Monster special rule as well as a Clamber skill, Unstoppable, Fearsome, and True Grit skills. On the bottom right hand corner is where a majority of Senior Chang's fighters are located at. In the very back right hand side, that is the Howler the Cannibal King. He is a Scavvy boss with a Refractor Field. He's also got a Nightshade Kim Thrower as well as a Cleaver. He's got Photo Goggles and a Respirator. He's also got the Natural Born Prime Specimen Tyrant's Own upgrades. He's also got Scaly Skin as well as Vast Bulk as well as Horrific Appearance. So that guy is kid out to kill. Right next to him on the left hand side, that is Charlie the Choo Choo, who is a Warp Horror. He's got 2 Horrific Appendages as well as Warp Fire Breath. It's got the Terrifying as well as Warp Denizen special rules. It's also got the Nerves of Steel as well as the Berserker skill. Right in front of Charlie the Choo Choo is Socket Head, which is a mutant armed with Mesh Armor, Reclaimed Auto Pistol, as well as Gunk Bombs. It's also got the Horrific Appearance mutation. And right next on the right hand side is King Slender. Another mutant's got a Mesh Armor as well as a Shotgun with Solid and Scatter Ammo, Gunk Bombs, as well as a Horrific Appearance special rules. Meanwhile, on the far right-hand side of the battlefield, we have in the back, that character's name is Slag. He's a Scaly who's armed with a Heavy Stubber with Suspensor. He's also got a Reclaimed Auto Pistol as well as an Axe and Photo Goggles. He's also got Dermal Hardening as well as Scaly Skin and Iron Will. And right in front of him is another mutant named the Crimson Wing. Crimson Wing, of course, is packing Mesh Armor, Last Gun, Last Pistol, Photo Goggles, and has the Wing Membranes mutation. And lastly, on the top of the tabletop, we also have Hiss, which is another Scaly who's armed with a Harpoon Launcher, Reclaimed Auto Pistol, Axe, as well as Photo Goggles. It's got the Dermal Hardening as well as Scaly Skin mutations. And right in front of it are 2 more mutants on the top there. That is Binbag. Binbag is a mutant with Mesh Armor, Reclaimed Auto Gun, Reclaimed Auto Pistol, and those are the Vast Bulk mutation. And next to him is the Oculoid number 2, who's got Mesh Armor, Reclaimed Auto Gun, as well as Reclaimed Auto Pistol, as well as Photo Goggles. And that guy has the Ice Stalks mutation. So jumping across the table for the deployment for the Blooded, up in the front we have a 3-man fire team. In the back, that is Screaming Koth, which is a Cult Disciple armed with Mesh Armor, Grenade Launcher with Fragging Crack Grenades, Stub Gun with Photo Goggles. Cult Icon's got the Inure to Insanity as well as the Overwatch Inure to Insanity special rule as well as the Overwatch skill. And right in front of him are 2 more fighters. Left hand side, that character's name is Inigo, which is a Helot Chaos Cultist with Mesh Armor, Hot Shot, Last Gun with Infrasight as well as Last Pistol. On the right hand side, that is the Murder Crow, which is the Helot Cultist, the Specialist, who's got Mesh Armor as well as a Long Rifle with Infrasight as well as a Last Pistol. This fighter also has the Specialist special rule attached to them as well. So making up for the right-hand side of the battlefield, in the center then, that bridge, I do apologize, that fighter's name is Saros, is that character's name. He is a Helot Cultist who's got Mesh Armor as well as Auto Gun, Auto Pistol, Frag Grenades, and Photo Goggles. He will be the Ritual Leader at the start of the battle report. And right next to him on the right-hand side, the big, huge monstrosity there is Urgot the Dominator. He is a mutated Ogren with Furnace Plates as well as Power Maul, Horrific Appendages. He's got the Murderous Brute as well as Slow-Witted special rules as well as True Grit and Killing Blow skills. And right behind him is Zekar Telos, who's a Cult Witch. He's got Mesh Armor as well as Auto Pistol and Flail, Photo Goggles. He's also packing a Chaos Familiar called Jetsam. He's also got the Witch as well as Inured to Insanity special rules. He's also got the Fixer skill as well as the Cult Weird Power Dark Shield. In the back right-hand corner is another two-man fire team. On the right-hand side, that is Core the Reaper, who is a cult disciple with mesh armor. He's packing a plasma gun as well as a stub gun for a backup weapon as well as photo goggles. He's got the Inured to Insanity special rule as well as the Overwatch skill. And next on the left-hand side, that character's name is Venerable, who's a Helot Chaos Cultist with mesh armor. He's also packing Hotshot Last Gun with Infrasight as well as a Last Pistol. And finally, left-hand side, we got the last bit of fire teams. In the back, that is Iago, the Thrice Curse, who is the Cult Demagogue, which is my sister's gang leader. He's got mesh armor as well as a bolt gun and auto pistol, photo goggles, as well as a Chaos Familiar Flotsam. He's got the Devotion as well as Inured to Insanity special rules. He's got the Overwatch skill as well as the Chronomancer Psychic Discipline with Flicker, meaning they could actually, once per battle, take 3 actions in a turn, as well as Zen Shootist. And right in front of him on the left-hand side in red, that is Drak the Trench Sweeper, who is a Helot Chaos Cultist. He's got Mesh Armor, a Ceramite Shield, a Shotgun with Solid and Scattered Ammo, as well as an Auto Pistol for a backup weapon and Photo Goggles. And next on the right-hand side, that is Yaros the Bullet Farmer, who is a Helot Chaos Cultist with Mesh Armor, Auto Gun, Auto Pistol, Frag Grenades, as well as Photo Goggles. And that makes up my sister's deployment for this battle report. So with deployments as well as battle plans over with, we go directly to the top at turn number 1, and both of my friends roll off for initiative to see which of them will have priority. So that takes directly to the top of turn number 1, and the Helot Chaos Cult gets the initiative on this one, so my sister will be rolling first, and as you can see with that little yellow die, we have it right next to Saros to start up the rituals. Alright, so for my sister's very first activation, she does a group activation with Screaming Koth. That disciple does have a cult icon, so he gets to activate 2 fighters in range. He decides to activate Inigo, as well as the Murder Crow as well. Screaming Koth takes a basic action aim with his grenade launcher and another basic action open fire with a frag grenade right directly onto King Slender, which also managed to catch Howler the Cannibal King in the blast radius as well. While Screaming Koth does manage to hit both those fighters, the blast template unfortunately is unable to wound them, so because of that, they're both currently pinned right now, which means they'll have to take basic actions to get back on their feet again to escape pinning. So continuing with the group activation, Inigo goes next, who takes a basic action aim his Hotshot Last Gun and another basic action open fire directly at Sockethead. Not only does he manage to injure Sockethead, but he also managed to put a serious injury on him as well. So because that, Sockethead goes crashing face down into the cold, hard decking, and he is currently bleeding out. He does pass his initiative test, so he doesn't have to worry about falling into that bottomless pit over there, but he is, of course, seriously injured. And to add insult to injury, Charlie the Choo-Choo, the Warp Horror, fails his cool test after watching Sockethead basically get split in half by a Hotshot Last Gun. Charlie the Choo-Choo loses his nerve, and I believe he flees 8 inches directly behind that barricade, so because of that, my friend Senior Ching will have to wait to the end phase to see if Charlie the Choo-Choo can recompose himself after seeing Sockethead getting a last bolt directly to the face. And finishing off the very last of the activation, the Murder Crow does try to take a basic action aim, as well as a basic action open fire directly onto the Fisher King, but unfortunately for my sister, though, she failed her roll, so because of that, nothing much really happened there. So going back to my friend Senior Chang, he decides to activate Slag, who decides to bring the pain by taking a double action open fire with his heavy stubber directly towards the Murder Crow, as well as Screaming Koth, as well as Inigo. And to make matters worse, Slag, man, he managed to get a 6 shots with his rapid fire stun bolter, so he puts 2 shots directly into the Murder Crow, managed to take the Murder Crow out of action with an out cold result, so first blood goes directly towards the Lords of the Pit. At the same time, he also puts 2 shots directly into Inigo, does manage to hit him and wound him as well, managed to put a flesh wound on Inigo, so Inigo is currently on the ground. Now granted, he is 1 toughness less, but he can still fight, he can still move, so very much a threat. And the last 2 shots went directly into Screaming Koth, but unfortunately for Senior Chang, he wasn't unable to hurt the cult disciple, so he's just currently pinned. So finishing his activation, Crimson Wing actually moves up forward with a simple movement and a basic action open fire with his auto gun directly into Urgot the Dominator. He managed to fire 2 shots with his auto gun, and both shots actually hit Urgot the Dominator. Unfortunately, though, they weren't able to wound him, so Urgot the Dominator is currently pinned. He does pass his initiative test and doesn't worry about falling off directly into the fan down below, so he's just currently stunned right now. So going back with my sister Shade, she decides to activate Zikr Telos, who does a group activation with Urgot the Dominator. The first thing she does, of course, is to take a basic action to summon up the Dark Shield cult power, which basically adds +1 to the save for all fighters in 3 inches. So this bonus will apply to both her as well as Urgot the Dominator. And both Urgot the Dominator as well as Zekertilos, of course, move directly across the footbridge directly onto the roof of the shanty there. Zekertilos, of course, is in the back with Urgot the Dominator in the front. And both those fighters, of course, now have 4 armor saves because of that Cult Witch ability. In response, Senior Chain decides to activate Bimbag, which is his mutant who's got vast bulk. Bimbag does a simple action move forward and a basic action open fire with his autogun directly towards Zekertilos, but unfortunately for him though, he misses his shot, so nothing much really happens there. So for my sister's next activation, she does a group activation with Kor the Reaper, who also does a group activation with Vinnerveal. Now Vinnerveal does a basic action open fire with his hotshot lasgun, as well as a basic action aim with his hotshot lasgun directly at Bimbag. Unfortunately for him though, he missed his shot, so nothing much really happened there. As for Kor the Reaper though, Kor the Reaper takes a basic action aim his plasma gun, so he gets +1 to hit with his Blizzard skill, and another basic action open fire with it. He managed to hit Bimbag twice, as well as put Bimbag out of action with Convalescence, so because of that he makes a full recovery at the end of the battle report. He just won't be able to take any post-action sequences at all. Now he's not within range of any of his friends in order to fail their cool tests, so they're perfectly fine. So now to be outdone, Senior Chain decides to do a group activation with both Hiss as well as Oculoid number 2. So the Oculoid number 2 does a simple action move forward, does more moon allowance, and a basic action open fire with his autogun directly towards Urgot the Dominator. Unfortunately though, he missed his shot, so not much really happened there. Hiss, on the other hand, does a simple action move up forward. He decides to go fishing by firing his harpoon launcher directly at Urgot the Dominator. And yes, he is able to move and shoot because the harpoon launcher does not have the unwieldy trait, so because of that he can move and shoot that weapon as a basic action. And that Harport goes zooming across the air and manages to skewer Urgot the Dominator, who does manage to wound him. Actually cuts right through his save, even with the additional buff from the psychic power, because that Harpoon Launcher has a -3 to AP value. Also managed to put a wound directly onto Urgot the Dominator as well. And because he wounded him, of course, he did do the drag special rule attached to that weapon. Actually managed to pull him 3 inches off the roof of the shanty, which puts him right smack dab into the corpse grinder down below. So because of that, Urgot the Dominator does fall into that environmental hazard, and he automatically goes out of action. He suffers a hobbling injury, which means that he will go into recovery, also lose 1 to his movement characteristic as well. So second kill going directly towards the Lords of the Pit. So wanting a bit of payback, Shade does a group activation with Yago the Thrice Curse, or Cult Demagogue, who does a group activation with Drock the Trench Sweeper, as well as Yaros the Bullet Farmer. Yaros the Bullet Farmer goes first, doing a simple action move to the right hand side, and another basic action open fire with his autogun directly into Crimson Wing. He does manage to hit Crimson's Wing, but unfortunately fails to wound him. But Crimson's Wing, of course, does have to take a initiative test because he's so next to that edge of that walkway there. He fails his initiative test, and he does plummet to the earth. However, though, he doesn't take any damage because he does have the wing membrane mutation, so he lands gently on the ground. He is just currently pinned. Continuing on with the group activation, Drock the Trench Sweeper does a double series of movements across the battlefield directly in front of Zekertilos, protecting the witch as well as himself with that huge Ceramount shield that he's packing. At the same time, Yago the Thrice Curse as well as Flotsam, they do a simple action move across the walkway directly towards that footbridge, and a basic action open fire with his bolt gun directly at Oculoid number 2. So the Cult Demagogue does manage to hit the Oculoid, managed to hit him 1 time, but failed to wound him, so because of the Oculoid is perfectly fine, he's just currently pinned. And yes, he does pass his initiative test, so he doesn't have to worry about falling off the walkway onto the cold hard concrete down below. So going back to the Lords of the Pit, Senior Chain decides to activate the Fisher King, his newly acquired Sump Beast. And that horrific monster does a double series of movements directly to the base of the turbofan there, so that way at his next turn he can start climbing up that thing and actually start attacking people because it has the clamber skills. It doesn't take any deductions for vertical movement. And because my sister Shade does not have any more fighters to activate for the rest of the turn, it goes directly to Senior Chang. So for Senior Chang's next activation, he activates King Slender. King Slender does a basic action to get back on his feet again, another simple action to move directly towards the Socket Head. His plan, of course, is to actually render medical assistance during the end phase, so that way Socket Head can have a better chance with his injury dice. And for his very last activation, Senior Chang does activate Howler the Cannibal King, his leader, who does a basic action to get back on his feet again. And he takes another simple action to kind of thread his way between the Endless Pit to the left-hand side as well as the Corpse Grinder on the right-hand side. Like I said, this scenario has a lot of environmental dangers on this battlefield, and looking back now, we should not have put as many linear dangers, but we'll talk about that a little bit later when we get to round 2. And with that, that takes us directly to the end phase. So here's an overhead shot of the entirety of the battlefield. As you can see, my sister's doing a really good job protecting herself and defending her ritual leader right there in the middle of the blast furnace, continuing making sure that the ritual keeps on going. At the same time, the Scavvies, of course, are putting their assault from the right-hand side as well as the center. They are being slowed down a little bit because the Helot Chaos Cultists of the Blood are doing a really good job of controlling the battlefield. And the very first thing we gotta do, of course, is the ritual. In this case, my sister rolled a 6, and when combined with the token that she actually has for the ritual token, we get a brand new ability, of course, that being the Tendrils of the Warp, basically going out there, which means that every single fighter on the battlefield will suffer from the insanity condition, so they will need to roll a d6 to see exactly what happens to them. Now, to be perfectly fair, my sister's gang actually has a bit of an edge in this one, because her leader, as well as cult disciples, as well as her witch, have the Inured to Insanity special rule, which means they don't suffer from insanity, because apparently, being a cultist and seeing all the strange things that chaos has to offer tends to kind of warp your sense of reality. So moving on with the rest of the end phase or the recovery phase, Charlie Choo Choo does manage to get his nerve back, so because that's perfectly fine, so he'll be able to act as normal, well, semi-normal, in the next turn. And unfortunately for Senior Chang, disaster strikes. He decides to roll the dice to see exactly what happens to Saga Head. Originally he rolled an out of action result. So because of that, he decides to use his medical assistance skill with the King Slender on Saga Head. So he rolls again, rolls another out of action result. So because of that, Saga Head does go out of action with a head injury, which is kind of wrong because his name is Second Head. He's also going to lose 1 point to his willpower as well as 1 point to his intelligence, and he will also go into recovery. So with that, we go directly to the top at turn number 2, and the Scavvies manage to go first. My friend Senior Chang managed to get the initiative on this one, so because at the very first fight he decides to activate is the Fisher King, and he does manage to pass his insanity check by rolling a perfect 6. So with the Fisher King ignoring any kind of whispers from the warp because it's a Sump Beast, and a Sump Beast doesn't even know the language in the first place, it decides to declare a double action by charging upwards directly towards the Helot Chaos Cultists. As you can see, the Fisher King managed to stick the landing going directly against that poor fighter Nigo, who's facing down right off the bat. And speaking of which, is actually kind of bad because that guy already has toughness 2 already. Not to mention, the Fisher King also has 3 attacks base at strength 5. So this thing is absolutely terrifying with ferocious jaws, and it also has -1 AP to its attacks. Needless to say, the Fisher King had no problem taking out Anito and putting him directly out of action, and when he rolled up for the injury on that one, he suffers an old battle wound, which means he'll make a full recovery, but at the beginning of every scenario that he'll have to participate in, he'll have to roll a d6, and if he rolls poorly, of course, he will not be able to participate because his old injury is acting up, which is kind of a nice thing to see in this campaign, set of rules for Necromunda, because that was actually an old game mechanic from the previous edition of Necromunda way back in the 90s, so it's kind of neat to see that old injury coming back to play. So in response to that, my little sister decides to activate her cult disciple Screaming Koth, who's armed with a grenade launcher. He spends a basic action to get back on his feet again, and another basic action to open fire with his grenade launcher, firing a crack grenade directly at the Fisher King. Unfortunately for him, though, he missed his shot, so because of that, even at point-blank range. Now, to be perfectly fair, though, when you fire grenade launchers at short range like this, you do suffer a -1 to hit penalty, so that definitely was a factor in this die roll. So because that, the crack grenade just kind of flies off the distance and explodes harmlessly in the environment somewhere. Probably blowing up a nest of mutated rats, but, you know, them's the breaks. Unfortunately for Senior Chang, though, he failed his insanity roll for the Howler the Cannibal King, so because of that, he is currently in possession of Shade. Now, here's where the interesting part of this battlefield gets into. If you notice, I've been talking about all the environmental hazards this battlefield actually has, and looking back now, my friends realize they shouldn't have actually picked these tiles, because that means that under the control of the other player, they can actually have these guys go to these environmental dangerous effects and actually get set of action. So because of that, Shade's going to take Howler the Cannibal King and have him dive bomb directly into the bottomless pit to the left of him. And as you can see, Helot the Cannibal King does throw himself into the pit, goes out of action, and suffers a humiliating injury. So because of that, he will lose 1 on his cool as well as 1 on his leadership as well. He will make a full recovery, so that's not going to be a big issue. But at the same time, though, that's just embarrassing, being forced to jump into the pit because you let the intrusive thoughts in. So going back to my little sister Shade, she decides to activate Zekr Kilos as well as for Drak the Trench Sweeper, and we actually make a rules mistake on this one. We just totally forgot about this. I forgot about it as well. But my little sister forgot that her witch actually has the Inured to Insanity special rule, which means that she doesn't have to take insanity tests for her witch. But unfortunately, though, she didn't do that this time, so we're just going to report it exactly as what happened. Unfortunately for both these fighters, though, they do fail their insanity tests. Zekr Telos basically loses his cool, so because he has to flee, so he actually goes right down directly in the space between the jet engine as well as with the shanty there, taking cover because he lost his nerves, so he has to take a cool test. And like I said before, this actually shouldn't have happened because cult witches are actually inured to insanity, but we forgot about that rule, so we do apologize for that. And unfortunately for Shade, this Trench Sweeper also failed his insanity test, so because he is now currently under possession of Senior Chang, and he let the intrusive thoughts in. And you can see in this photo, Drock the Trench Sweeper does double movements directly off the footbridge into the corpse grinder and actually gets grinded up into the corpse starch down below. He automatically goes out of actions, and to make things worse, he also suffers a old battle wound as well. So he will make a full recovery, but unfortunately for my sister Shade, she will have to roll a d6 for Drock the Trench Sweeper, and if she rolls poorly, he will not be able to participate in that battle because his old injury is acting up. So Senior Chang then also, of course, activates Charlie the Choo-Choo, and the intrusive thoughts of I think I can goes directly into his head, and unfortunately he fails his insanity test, so because of that, my sister Shade is now in full possession and control of Charlie the Choo-Choo. And unfortunately, the Warp Horror thinks it can actually survive that bottomless pitfall, so decides to go in for a quick nosedive directly into that bottomless pit. He does go out of action, and normally he would suffer a 34, which I believe is convalescence. I have to double check though. But it doesn't really matter though. The reason why is because of Charlie the Choo-Choo's Warp Denizen special rule, which means as long as it's not a memorable death, he is completely fine and ignores all lasting injuries. So for Shade's next activation, she does do a group activation with both Yago the Thrice Curse as well as Yaros the Bullet Farmer. Yaros the Bullet Farmer goes first by taking a basic action to aim with his auto rifle, and another basic action open fire with his auto gun directly into the Fisher King. And unlike his cult disciple, Yaros the Bullet Farmer does manage to hit the Fisher King, manages him 3 times with that auto gun as well. Now he doesn't manage to wound the Fisher King, but because the Fisher King is next to that railing, he does need to take an initiative test to see if he stays on. He fails the initiative test, so he does crash like a meteor directly onto the ground, but the Fisher King is currently fine because he doesn't get wounded from the fall, and he's currently pinned. So continuing on with Shade's activation for Yago the Thrice Curse. Yago the Thrice Curse takes a basic action to aim his bolt gun, getting +1 to hit with it, and opens fire with his bolt gun, firing off 2 shots with that rapid fire capacity on that bolter. Both shots hit and both shot wound, so because of that, Hiss actually gets taken down and actually eats up both of his wounds as well. And when the course she rolled for the injury on that one, she actually rolled 2 flesh wounds. So because that Hiss is currently laying on the ground, he is currently pinned with 2 flesh wounds put upon him. So now he is easier to wound, but he can still move, he can still shoot, he can still fight, so he's very much a threat. So Senior Chang also activates King Slender as well, and unfortunately for him, he does fail his insanity test, so because of that, he is actually under the control of Shade at this point, and Shade, of course, puts in a little whisper in his ear that maybe he should also try to jump off the ledge as well. And unfortunately for Senior Chang, that's exactly what ends up happening. King Slender decides to dive bomb directly into that same pit, because he suffers an out-of-action result, so because he does suffer out cold, which means that King Slender will make a full recovery, no problem. So for Shade's next activation, she activates Core the Reaper. Her champion does a group activation with Venerbiel, the Helot Chaos Cultist. Both those fighters do pass their insanity test, so because that Venerbiel does a double movement directly to the top of the shanty, making his way directly to put some covering fire directly into the Scavvies approaching from the right-hand side of the battlefield. And once again, Core the Reaper does a basic action to aim with his plasma gun, getting +1 to his ballistic skill, and another basic action to open fire with it. This time the plasma gun only got 1 shot directly onto Hiss, but only 1 shot was actually required. Hiss, of course, fails his armor test, so because that goes directly out of action, and he suffers a convalescence injury, so because that he will go out of action, but he'll make a full recovery no problem. He just won't be able to take any post-battle sequences. So Senior Chang then goes after Slag, but unfortunately the Warp whispers directly into Slag's face, and he says, you know what, would it be really fun for you to just use this one opportunity to just take a nosedive directly into a corpse grinder. So with a YOLO in the air, Slag does a double movement directly across the edge of the walkway directly into the corpse grinder and goes out of action as well, suffering an out cold result as well. So yeah, like I said before, having these environmental effects on this battlefield really detrimental for the overall gameplay. So the only fighter that my friend Senior Chang has left is Bloodwing, so he decides to call at this point. Doesn't want to lose any more fighters that he already has because he only has the 2 left. So because they just surrender, and the Helot Chaos Cultists managed to squeeze out a victory on this one. So with that being said, we're going to go directly to the post-game and talk about all the post-game action sequences for each of the different gangs, because this battle report is now officially over.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
So this is the post-action sequence for Dark Uprising Battle Report number 12. This was fought between my 2 friends, Senior Chang, as well as my sister Shade. Senior Chang, of course, was playing the Lords of the Pit of the Scavvies. In the post-battle sequence, we'll talk about injuries, advancements, territories, the trading posts, their reputation, their new win-loss record, as well as their new gang rating. So first of all, let's talk about the Lords of the Pit's unaligned abilities. So as an unaligned ability, they do get two of them. One is called Hard as Nails. That means that no matter what ends up happening in a scenario, they always earn 1 point of reputation, always. At the same time, they also have a special rule called No Gods or Masters, which means that the gang's leader doesn't go out of action and participates in the battle report. They earn D3 points of experience as a bonus. Unfortunately for my friend Cedar Chain, though, the Howl of the Cannibal King did go out of action, so that will not take effect. And speaking of which, let's go ahead and talk about injuries real quick. So Hiss as well as Binbag suffers convalescence, so because of that, they make full recoveries, no problem. Same thing with Slag, King Slender, as well as Charlie the Choo Choo. They got out cold results, so they're perfectly fine. As for Helot the Cannibal King, however, he does suffer a humiliating injury, so he does make a full recovery, going into convalescence afterwards, but he does lose 1 point to his leadership as well as 1 to his cool, making leadership 6 as well as cool 6. Crimson Wing unfortunately suffered a critical injury during the course of the battle report because they had to roll for him because he was currently on the ground, and because of that, he actually scored a medical escort mission directly to see Scavvy Scully, which is the rogue dog for the gang. When they rolled it for him, though, they rolled an out cold result instead, so because of that, Crimson Wing goes into recovery instead. He will miss out his next battle report as a penalty, however, but it could have been a lot worse. And finally, Soghead did suffer a hit injury, meaning he loses 1 point to his intelligence as well as 1 point to his willpower, so now he's intelligence 9 and willpower 9. At the same time, he also goes in recovery as well, so he will miss out on his next battle report as he tries to recover from his injuries. However, as bad as it was for Senior Chang, though, not everything is doom and gloom. A couple of his fighters did advance. His actually leveled up to level 1, and during that time period, level 2, and because he does get the vast bulk mutation as well, so because he has 1 plus to his wounds characteristics, now he actually has wound 3 now, and he also increased his characteristics by 20 credits in total. Slag also leveled up to level 1 as well, so because of that, Outcast Champion got +1 to his Blissa skill, so because of that, now he's Blissa skill 3 now, and also increased his crit rating by 20 credits in total. And finally, King Slender also leveled up to level 1 as well, earning +1 to his movement characteristics, so now he is movement 6, because that's what my friend Cedar Chang rolled up on the advanced table for his gangers, and at the same time increased his credit value by 10 credits as well. From his territories, first off, starting off with his settlement, he actually recruited a new outcast Hive Scum mutant named the Nerf Herder, who came with the Scaly Skin mutation, so that means he's got a 4-up armor save, he just can't improve it by any means for the rest of the campaign, and also managed to drum up 40 credits from that territory as well. For his Reclamation Zone, he actually managed to score 10 credits from his, managed to take off 10 credits off of any item that he purchases from his house list items, and also managed to drum up 40 credits from that. From his Wasteland territory, earns 10 credits from that territory. From his Hab level, he earns +2 reputation as well as +10 credits, and also from his Slave Pit, he actually managed to earn 3 additional XP for Hiss, 3 XP for Master Blaster, and King Slender earned 2 additional experience points on top of that, and he also managed to drum up 50 credits from that territory. So from the trading post, he spent 160 of his credits to purchase a Suspenser for Slag, as well as spent the last of his 60 credits in order to purchase a reclaimed auto pistol, as well as a maul and gunk bombs from the Nerf Herder as well, and he used up all of his credits in order to do that. And speaking of the Nerf Herder, here he is. As you can see, he is an outcast Hive Scum with 5 movement, 4+ weapon skill, Blissa skill, 3 strength and toughness, 1 wound, 4 initiative, 1 attack, 8 leadership, cool, willpower, intelligence. And he's also got a reclaimed auto pistol, a maul, as well as gunk bombs. And he's also got Scaly Skin, giving him a 4-up armor save. For reputation, he did manage to secure 2 points of reputation from his territories, as well as 1 from Hard as Nails as well, giving a grand total of 16 points of reputation in total. His new record now is at 1 win and 2 losses, and his new gang rank now is at 3,225 points. So with that, we're going to talk about my little sister Shade's gang, the Blooded, which is a Helot Chaos Cult that has dedicated his niche. In this post-battle sequence, we'll talk about the injuries they suffered, the dark ritual game mechanic, as well as whatever advancements she might have. We'll talk about the territories that she controls, the trading posts, her changed reputation, her new win-loss record, as well as her new gang rating. So starting off with her gang's benefits from being the side of cash, she does have the Bloody Harvest special rule, which means she also gains 1 additional portion of meat than normal, but since we're not in the damnation phase of the Dark Uprising campaign setting, that rule is pretty much useless. At the same time, we also have another special rule called Tear It All Down, but since basically you make 1 additional fighter in your gang when they attack her in the scenario, but because she was the defender in the scenario, that benefit actually did not come into play at all. As for injuries, though, we do have the Murder Crow. The Murder Crow, of course, suffered an out cold result, so because of that, she did make a full recovery, so no harm, no foul there. As well as Drac the Trench Sweeper suffered an old battle wound, so because of that, at the very beginning of every single scenario he takes place, and he'll have to roll a d6. If he rolls a 1, he will not be able to participate in that battle report because his old injury is acting up. And the exact same thing happened to Inigo as well. He also suffered an old battle wound as well, so because of that, he will also need to roll a d6 at the beginning of every battle report to see if he can participate. And Urgot the Dominator actually suffered a hobbling injury, so because he does lose -1 to his movement characteristics, so instead of being movement 5, he's now only movement 4, and he also went into recovery originally. However, though, he does make a full recovery, and the reason why is because of the thermal vent territory that my sister managed to secure on that one. She rolls a 6 for Urgot the Dominator, so because he makes a full recovery, no problem. Meanwhile, for the Dark Ritual on this one, Chainglaive Cain was actually selected to be the vessel for the Dark Ritual. He was randomly picked, and so because that he was used to be the vessel of the Dark Ritual. Luckily for my sister Shade, though, she was able to retain the favor as niche, ignoring hit modifiers for shooting once per round, and at the same time her leader is still a Psyker as well. At the same time, Chainglaive Cave also earned +4 experience points for his trouble for being used as the vessel for the change. So we go to advancements next, and Core the Reaper actually leveled up to level 1 as well, increasing his toughness characteristic by 1, making him toughness 4 now, so because he's even more resilient, and at the same time increasing his crit rating by 30 credits in total. And Screaming Cod, the second cult disciple, also leveled to level 1 as well, also increasing his Blizzard skill by 1 as well, because apparently missing that point blank shot with his grenade launcher kind of affected Shade the wrong way, so she decided to increase his Blizzard skill to +2 now, and also increases his credit value by 20 credits. And lastly, your Cult Witch, Zikratilos, also leveled up as well to level 1, and he basically learned the Scouring Psychic Power, which basically gives him a Strength 2 template attack, and also increased his credit value by 20 credits as well. So, going into Shade's territories, for Chaos Fane, she was able to recruit a brand new Helot cultist named Ashrock the Mad, and also managed to secure 60 credits from that territory as well. From her Hab level, she was able to drum up 6 points of reputation, as well as an additional 60 credits from that territory. For a Wall Outpost, she'll be able to subtract 25 credits for any weapon that costs 100 credits or more, and at the same time also managed to drum up 40 credits from that territory. And she also managed to capture a Thermal Vent, because she captured one at the end of the battle report, and because of that, she rolled to see if Urgot the Dominator would make a full recovery. Rolled a 6 on that one, so he makes a full recovery, no problem, and also managed to drum up 90 credits from that territory. At the same time, for the trading post, she managed to drum up 250 credits from her territories, and when combined with the 45 credits from her stash, as well as 30 credits from Zikratilos' Fixer skill, and 20 credits from the Price of Victory campaign effect, you're a grand total of 345 credits in total. With those credits, she spent 225 credits in order to recruit a new cult disciple named Drekor Burns, who's armed with a mesh armor for a 5 armor save. He's also packing a flamer, as well as an auto pistol for a backup weapon. He's got photo goggles to see in all visibility conditions, as well as a Nerves of Steel skill, so that way if he does get hit, he can escape pinning by passing a cool test. She also spent 115 credits for mesh armor, as well as a bolt gun with last pistol and photo goggles for Ashrock the Mad, and she took her 5 remaining credits and placed them directly into the stash. So here's a close-up of her new Helot Chaos Cultist, Ashrock the Mad. He costs 150 credits in total. He's got 5 inch movement characteristic, 4+ weapon skill and Blizzard skill, 3 strength and toughness, 1 wound, 3 initiative, 1 attack, 9 leadership, 7 cool, 7 willpower, as well as 8 intelligence. He's packing mesh armor for a 5 armor save, as well as a bolt gun for his primary weapon, a last pistol for a backup weapon, as well as photo goggles. At the same time, Drekor Burns, the newly recruited cult disciple, he costs 250 credits. He's got 5 inch movement characteristic, 4 weapon skill, 3+ ballistic skill, 3 strength and toughness, 2 wounds, 4 initiative, 1 attack, 7 leadership, 6 cool, 8 willpower, as well as 8 intelligence. He's got mesh armor for a 5 armor save, a flamer for his primary weapon, as well as a last pistol for a backup weapon. He's got photo goggles, as well as the Near to Insanity special rule, and he's also got the Nerves of Steel skill. For reputation, she managed to earn 1 point of reputation from the campaign week, as well as 2 points of reputation from the scenario and 6 points of reputation from her territories, increasing her overall reputation to 13 points in total. Her new record now is at 1 win and 1 loss, and her new game rating now is at 2,675 points. So there you guys have it. That's good to this one for Battle Report number 12 of our Duck Uprising campaign. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is valuable to us as always. Also check us out on Facebook, Instagram, as well as blogger.com for all the latest greatest hobby news related to this channel. That's good for this one, you guys. I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace out and stay classy.